I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Hello there, and welcome to Mando Theory. My channel is made to help you understand Star Wars. Everything you want to know, but don't have the time to research it yourself. Today we will be talking about the Razor Crest, the Mandalorian ship, what it was designed based upon, and how it finally turned out to look, and some of the cool features you didn't even know were there. So let's get into the video. The Mandalorian ship, the Razor Crest, was based off of the A-10 Thunderbolt Warthog, a fighter jet from World War II. It had a really long turn-foil down at the bottom that they were able to shove in, so it would not have this huge pointy thing sticking out, and instead would just be just a flat bottom. If you stood the engines up, instead of having them being sideways like you have them, like you see them normally, if you stood them upwards, they would be taller than the ship, and the ship's pretty tall. It has a single chair in the cockpit, which shows just how lonely the life of a Mandalorian is. How they live by themselves and don't have anybody who goes with them. He had a single bunk in his ship, because the ship is where he lived, it was his home, everything for him. Later on in the show, they had a second jump chair for Grogu, so he'd have a place to sit instead of just on the floor. The controls for the Razor Crest were made to look like the controls of an airplane and the controls of the Millennium Falcon kind of blended together, but to look like themselves, so they wouldn't look like an airplane or the Millennium Falcon. It'd be its own ship. This is the second time we see like the inside of a single person ship in Star Wars live action stuff. We see several of them in like the Clone Wars and Rebels, because we see the Ghost in Rebels and like dozens and dozens of ships in the Clone Wars. He had a carbon freezing base pad or something. He shoved bounties in and they froze into carbon solid. 90% of the time carbon freezes were successful. The other 10% of the time it killed the person who got frozen. So if you didn't get killed, you're lucky. He had racks that he could hang the bounties on. In the first episode, you see that he has 4 or 5 bounties hung up there. So he should have got quite a lot of credit from those. His carbon freezing chamber was a lot different from the one we see in Empire Strikes Back, because that one was a huge pit inside of the ground. This one was just like a box that he could freeze his targets in. It had a huge mechanical thing that was almost bigger than his ship. I bet you didn't know that the Razor Crest has an escape pod. You never see it in the show, but the designers decided to leave it in when they were designing the ship, in case there was ever a scene where they needed to have it. That way they had it. It was never used because the Razor Crest was blown up with a shot from Moff Gideon's cruiser before they could do it. Built sometime before the formation of the Galactic Empire in 19 BBY. It was used to patrol local territories. It was destroyed at about 9 ABY on the planet Tython from Moff Gideon's cruiser, like I said. It was the shot from his cruiser also destroyed the Ambient Phase Pulse Blaster. See my other video. There was a whole separate room of the ship we never even saw. It was up above, right behind of the cockpit. Remember seeing them slide down the ladder? You never see them go straight across and over, because I don't think they wanted to show us that part of the ship yet. And they never did, because it got blown up. The vac tube was based off of the International Space Station's design, and had almost anything any type of alien would need attached to it. It also contained an astromech interface socket, which it was never seen used. It was made so droids like Chopper, R2, R4, all droids like that could have used that, have piloted that ship or anything, but they never did. Because Din Djarin did not like droids. He hated them. The only droid he really kind of accepted was IG-11, and that because he was reprogrammed to be a nurse droid for the child. There was enough room on the Razor Crest that it could hold 3 blurgs. Grogu found this little silver ball on the control panel of the ship. He really liked to screw and take off and play with it a lot. Eventually, the Mandalorian just let him keep it, and let him leave with it after Luke Skywalker came and trained him, which I think is really cool. Was broken for a while and had to fly with just the cockpit. That was the only part that anyone could leave or get into, because that was the only airtight spot after the giant ice spiders attacked them and destroyed it. Only way they survived was because 2 of the guards, New Republic guards, who'd made them crash land, came down and saved them. They didn't help repair his ship, but they did make it so he would be safe from the spiders. Later on, he went to a different port and started to get repaired, but that didn't work too well. So he went back to Navarro and got the people there to do it, and they did an amazing job, but a tracker was put on there, so Moff Gideon could track him to Tython and destroy his ship. The droid Zero said that his hyperdrive was only operating at like 61% of its full capabilities, so it wasn't doing the best that it could. The Razor Crest had code jamming signals, so it could jam code for the Republic and the Empire's signals, which is why it was so good at being a bounty hunter ship, and why the Mandalorian chose it. What I really want to know about the Razor Crest is how can we never see it in the movies? Like, we see it in the Mandalorian. We know it was built around 19 BBY, which is right about the start of, which is a few years before the start of A New Hope. So right around the end of Revenge of the Sith. So sometime in there, we should have seen it in New Hope. We could have seen it in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. We never did, though. I want to know why. Why was it never shown before The Mandalorian? Was it because they just invented it then for the show? Or was it because it wasn't in that part of the galaxy that they had the other movies set? Well, that'll bring this episode of Mando Theory to a close. I got some of the information for this video and a lot of the pictures from The Art of Star Wars, The Mandalorian. I'll leave a link to the book down in the description. See you next time. Mando Theory out.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.